There's so much on the line here for EG versus NiP.
Yep.
The winner of this game goes into a playoff against Team Empire, who were busy preparing themselves down in the other areas. I say preparing themselves. I think they're watching CS:GO.
They are actually. I see one of them watching CS:GO.
But they'll be ready to play this game up against the winner of that. The winner of that game goes into first position. The loser of this game has to play up against MVP Phoenix for the third or fourth position, then to battle into the semifinals. A long run. All of our playoff games are starting tomorrow at midday local time. So it's going to be a very long day too, because that's potentially 9 games. They're all best of 3s, but that's 9 games you'll have to play in a row. It's a long run up if you're going to come from the bottom.
Yeah, gigantic difference between just this one game and having the opportunity to take first place and be in the finals right away and watch everyone else battle it out to get to you. So Evil Geniuses and Ninjas in Pajamas, they will not be pulling any punches here in this group stage match.
Yeah, this is it really. So our first ban's out of the way. Nightstalker being banned down against NiP. They have been picking this up in the 4th position throughout the day, but it's gonna let slip through the Wisp of War. He's the first one to come in. And normally NiP have just gone for the tiny combination. And really, PPD, he'll be expecting this. You ban out Troll, you ban this out. Maybe you would think a sniper pickup will be on the cards. But in this case, you've already got the Wisp. I'd be more concerned they actually get both. Run a Wisp Honey safe lane, put Sniper in mid, or Sniper safe lane, which has actually been more of what they've done. Because they run Sniper safe lane with Ear, and they put limps like Lina into the mid instead.
And I think it would be much more likely that if they do run the Tiny Wisp, they would run it in the middle lane. We don't see safe lane too often, but yeah, they have an incredibly good win rate with the Wisp. They have a 66% win rate, 12-6, Toby. Very impressive. I mean, that's not just like, oh, we won, 3 games.
A couple of games here and there.
Exactly. They actually have picked it up a lot in the past and have shown consistent performances with it, though. Evil Geniuses, strong response here. The Juggernaut. We do not get to see this guy very much. This tournament has been...
Fear's really the only person, Fear's the only person at this tournament that's played the Juggernaut.
Yep.
And very successful. And this is where we open up our thoughts a little bit, because the last time we saw him play the Juggernaut, it was his safe lane farmer, ended up coming in, winning the world because he was given space. Sumail was destroyed playing the Storm Spirit mid. We're not going to see the same situation this time around because the Storm's being banned out. The Juggernaut also won't have this early advantage by having Empower because the Magnus is directly banned out by NiP in that 3rd one. They do not want this Juggernaut becoming unstoppable.
Yeah, I actually had some opportunity to talk to Hanskin outside of being on the cast, and I wanted to know, what are you going to be doing up against EG? How did you read, MVP Phoenix took it to EG. What were the weaknesses you saw out of them? And it sounded like he said that, okay, MVP Phoenix did aggression really well up against Evil Geniuses. They ran an aggro tri-lane. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that we need to run an aggro tri-lane, but we do need to kind of put pressure on them. If Evil Geniuses have strong supports, and that was the main reason that MVP Phoenix were able to run that kind of aggro tri-lane was solely because EG had a kind of a lackluster tri-lane. If EG have strong supports, we can't run the aggro tri-lane, but we can still keep up pressure, right? We're actually going to try and not just do what Empire did and rotate constantly to the middle lane, right? Yep. We're actually going to make some movements up to that top lane. We're going to try and go up against those tri-lane heroes impossible. Not the aggro tri-lane here. I mean, I would say Vengeful Spirit and Juggernaut way too dangerous, but...
It feels more like a dual lane potential.
Yeah, a strong dual lane with Axe, I think, is exactly the kind of aggressive standpoint that you're looking at.
And you can do it with different combos. So you can run, the Dazzle is where my mind's going here. So you can run Dazzle, Axe off lane, and then put the Wisp plus Tiny into the mid. The problem, obviously, if you do something like this, it causes large amounts of issues with control factors, because your supports don't give any when you have someone like a Dazzle. It's all armor, and you then have to have more of a push kind of focus, and that's probably the reason why PPD doesn't ban out something like the Dazzle. He takes out the line instead. That control factor that can roam and function with the rest of NiP.
Skywrath Mage for Evil Geniuses, strong hero to be able to burst down the Wisp as fast as humanly possible, solid disable through and through. It's very good versus the Axe as well, right? He jumps in, he gets the call, but he's not really moving too much. Unless he has the Blade Mail, Skywrath Mage won't really be threatened to just drop that ultimate.
It is kind of surprising that they go for the Skywrath Mage, and it puts a lot of confidence into PPD to make sure that Vengeful Spirit's played absolutely perfectly, because the swap is going to do so much work now. Like, you could have gotten something like a Witch Doctor combined with a VS, a normal combo, or with like Disruptor, for example. So you've got Glimpse or Paralyzing Cast to stop that Wisp plus whoever combination that comes out from NiP.
Ninjas in Pajamas,
They do it with the Dazzle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Run the Dazzle Axe. They can still pick up the Tiny Wisp. And the big advantage of this, right, if they're running a dual aggro lane, Axe, Dazzle, off lane together, they can run the Wisp +1 in middle, and that actually gives a huge opportunity. You see this very rarely, but they can actually run a safe lane solo. And that is huge. Having that kind of opportunity, running a hero in the safe lane, 1v1 up against someone else, means that they can actually run something like a Queen of Pain or a Stormseer, one of those kind of heroes that is able to who really takes a big benefit out of being safe lane and getting that insured kind of farm, but also really wants the solo experience. Right? That's the big problem with running Stormseer as a safe lane farmer. With two supports behind him, you're lacking in experience, and that really hurts the Storm, especially due to early aggression. He still doesn't have that ball lightning.
Yeah. I'm going to flag, if you're looking for a safe laner, there's one hero which I know Fear was praising heavily while he was up here commentating, and that was actually the Beastmaster. He hasn't been touched here. With the boars, depending on who EG run the offlane, like that's kind of the problem. But you got the last pickups. If you pick up your second core, if you go for your Tiny now and you're happy with Tiny Whistle up against the Shadow Fiend, then you're all good. In fact, they will now go for the Tiny. So we get that big combination. And EG, you got to make sure this guy does not get a quick Aghanim Scepter, or else they're in a lot of trouble. In fact, last time he played the Tiny here on the stage, he went Hand of Midas as his first item build. So it was all about that quick progression to get Hand of Midas up, to get Aghanim Scepter up, and then quickly into your next item. It's not this wait and see. It's this, by 25, 30 minutes in, you want to have 3 tier 4 items, or tier 3, I'm sorry, over on the Tiny, and it created a whole new tier.
Yeah, what I really like about Ninjas in Pajamas lineup here with both the Tiny as well as the Axe, and then you include the heal out from the Dazzle and Wisp. They're a really tanky lineup, and I think that's going to be hard for a hero like Juggernaut to be able to eat through those heroes. He's so dependent on Omnislash to be able to get you a numbers advantage, right? You want to be able to get a quick kill out of Omnislash and move on from there, and Juggernaut, especially since he goes for this very heavy stat and movement speed build, is able to run down hero after hero. You turn basically one pick off with Omnislash into 2 or 3 more kills because of so much mobility. Ninjas in Pajamas, they're going to be tough to eat through with all that heal and all those tanky heroes. Shadow Fiend is going to be a bit better, though. I really like that Evil Geniuses picked that one up in anticipation of the fact that, hey, they already have an Axe. They've got 2 healers out from Wisp and Dazzle. We need some more sustained damage. Juggernaut is not going to be good enough by himself.
Yeah. All right.
So now I like the Queen of Pain band. That would have been my go-to hero as a safe lane farmer.
It was the one you said. I don't know if PPD's currently got his one half year off and he's listening to your advice.
You know, somehow, Toby, I don't think PPD really cares what I have to say.
I would actually not be surprised at that.
Yeah. I don't think he's taking strategy advice from me.
In that case, I'm going to say, well done, Cap. You're thinking like PPD.
I'll take that. I'll take that.
You can take that as a compliment.
Clockwork, very obvious ban out from Ninjas in Pajamas. You need an offlaner, right?
Yeah.
Works really well with Skywrath Mage.
And it's one of these heroes too, if you are looking to run like a one-on-one up against him and do this dual Axe Dazzle offlane, then you want to have someone that's not going to get potentially picked off by a high-level battery assault and cold control, because that's exactly what Universe is going to do to you. Right. He's going to take away every bit of your life, come in close and try and play the positional game, and he's very, very good at that. You cannot, like Universe to me, like every time he gets to play a Darkseer offlane, I get so ecstatically happy about it, because he's just so in your face with the Iron Shells. He doesn't hold back. It's not just this, I sit back behind the tower, eventually I'll get my soul ring. It's get yourself in front, up in their faces, and try and whittle away at their HP, whittle away at the consumables of that safe laner, so he's incapable of fighting. And we're going to get the Beastmaster now. So we mentioned it before, he's going to come up now, but it's in the hands of Universe for EG.
Yeah, I would have loved to seen a Darkseer, but it doesn't fit for their lineup. I don't think they don't have enough AoE control to combo with the vacuum.
This is perfect with the Beastmaster pickup, because you can use the boars to psych up the Ancients, and that's where Juggernaut moved over very quickly too.
Yes, and the single target disable as well versus the Tiny or the Axe, or even being able to stop the relocate out from the Wisp. Very important. The Clockwork would have been such a critical pickup. It would have been such a strong hero. But yeah, I mean,
Aggression
it's going to
time.
be one of those intelligence heroes, right? In the safe lane solo.
Oh, yeah, are you actually still thinking that Limp's going to be in the safe lane solo instead of putting Limp up against Sumail in the mid?
You know, I think I would prefer. Okay, so the mid lane's actually going to be not that. It's going to be a bit dangerous because they're going to start off. Evil Geniuses are going to run the Skywrath Mage in the middle lane with the SF, just to make sure that up against the dual lane of the Tiny Wisp, it still makes up that the SF gets some levels and it doesn't feel too scared. I do think that they're going to run still the safe lane Lina 1v1 up against the Beastmaster, and then they have the Axe and Dazzle paired up against the defensive tri-lane of EG.
I'm not sure how well this Lina's really going to do. Like, if once Beastmaster starts getting a couple of levels up into Call of the Wild, that ball's going to cause a large amount of problems for the Lina's movement. So her normal movement into aggressive posture is not going to really function anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think
she is going to go bottom lane, though, so it is going to be Limp in the safe lane, and then the Wisp Tiny into mid.
Yeah, the only other thing would be that I think EG may actually. I think they could have run an aggro tri-lane up against the Lina, right, and basically dodge the Dazzle Axe.
And move Juggernaut, Skywrath. Okay, so you Beastmaster up on top. I can understand that.
Yeah, essentially just dodging the dual lane that NiP want to force. And,
it just means
it may not even be a dual lane necessarily. I mean, they could have Hanskin roam around with the Wisp. He picks up a bottle, right? And if you need him up the top lane, you want to try and go for an engagement. He gets up to like right here, right? And the rest of your team rotates over, and he just tethers in. And you've got that that bottle to be able to give extra heals. It's a potential roam that Wisp can make. It's not really like a strong roaming hero necessarily, but with the bottle and already kind of the setup of just, keep the Axe alive, keep him healed, keep him everything else, they could actually make those kind of rotations. So I really like NiP. This is exactly what Hanskin was talking about, the kind of controlled aggression, right? Not a full-out aggro tri-lane, but a dual lane presence that will keep Evil Geniuses' support probably in that lane. You can't afford to leave the Juggernaut alone against an Axe.
So, looks like now we're going to get the 100-100s in, so Wisp as well as Bounty Hunter will be able to take that one. As our crowd is being blinded by the light. Skywrath Mage is even playing.
Era and Hanskin, middle, Eunice and Seal Kid up at that top lane. They are, PPD is actually going to be the laner here. A PPD is usually the one who helps support the middle lane. For those of you guys who don't know.
How we found the ward.
And also our
lights go down.
Our crowd had a little fun with the lights.
Yeah. Well, off they run. Top lane. Keep your eyes closely on Fierce CS. That's what I want to watch right now. I want to see just how effective this Juggernaut can be coming in close on the Axe. The same thing, like, there's a lot of pressure on Owie to make sure this Axe drops down, but how much can he really do when Dazzle's here with Shadow Wave as well as having 2 Clarities? That's a lot of heal to come in, so the harassment from the Skywrath Mage is really negated, largely.
Middle lane is actually going very successfully so far for Evil Geniuses. Sumail is sitting at a 4-4 CS. That is really impressive up against a Tiny who's, right clicks are so incredibly far ahead of you, but now he's got that early burst of souls, and I think he should be good. PPD will probably still stick around just to make sure that they don't go for a very aggressive, like, trying to early kill on the
bottom
SF.
lane, Limp and Universe. This could be our first blood right now. Limp, Light Strike Array is going to connect. He doesn't have anything else, though, for 4 more seconds. The Beastmaster, there's not enough mana for Axes. He's short by 10, so Limp will get far enough away from the ball so we can get the full salve duration off. But Limp, you could see him posturing, and Universe knew it too. They're both looking at each other, and they're both also hyper-aggressive players when they come to this lane.
Yeah, Limp actually went from like almost dying there to being able to keep his potion intact, so he's not actually crippled in any way. But very close engagement. You cannot underestimate the damage of those spores, especially since you can get 2 of them out at a time. Not surprised the Universe is going to be maxing that out. The boar's got a huge buff, right? They do 30 damage at level 2. That's pretty insane. You get it up to like the maxed out boar, 60 damage a pop is insane.
You want to look to top. VS just picked up a double damage rune, so PPD looking for the kill over on Dazzler. There's the Shallow Grave, and no steal from Owie means that he should be able to get back past the tier 1 tower. Axe with the call, try and drag Owie in range of the tower, but that's not going to work as, damn you to hell, first blood is going to be Era back behind the tier 1 tower. Huntskin, he's actually dead. He won't survive this, spends all of his money before death though, so it's still worth it. Very much worth it for NiP. They get the first blood, and they don't lose any kind of money.
Yeah, he goes to the Dire, so it's not like the SF picked up any gold. He didn't get any experience. Big win there for Ninjas and Pajamas, and that's why I was surprised that PPD actually rotated up to that top lane. Obviously, the double damage is an opportunity that can't be ignored, but as soon as he shows his face up in the top lane, that's immediately when NiP strike in the middle.
Face it, you're a loser.
And it's so hard to deal with this Axe. Like, Juggernaut is just not that kind of hero. He's pretty susceptible to that early physical damage. And Eunice is just out. That's a great call, actually. The top lane, they may get PPD.
Yeah, he's getting back as far as he possibly can with Skywrath Mage as well as Fear. Potentially going to go into a spin. They would have had to chase too far back behind the tier 1 tower to find that kill. And it's just not worth it at this point because the Axe doesn't have enough regeneration even with Seal Kid behind him.
Yeah, if he just got one lucky spin there, it would have actually gotten the kill. Universe at this bottom lane, 9-2 compared to Lena's 22-2. Limp is dominating the lane. He has to just be careful not to play too overly aggressive into the board, but other than that, he's fine. The extra range of the lane is actually what's winning this lane, I think, more than anything else. The extra 100 is pretty critical. It's allowing him to deal with the board really effectively.
The problem he's going to have is when the rotations come in from EG. So keep your eyes very closely on where PPD is going to move. Like right now, it's all about stacking. But when Owie 2000 as well as PPD like TP down and smoke up, they're going to get the kill over on Lena. And it's worth a hell of a lot because Lena's obviously solo laning. So that's a large amount of experience which is coming their way when they get that pick off. Not to mention they slow down the transition because if you get this Eul Scepter quickly on Lena with a Blink Dagger, then NiP can start to get a bit more of a steamroll in the early portion of the game, and this buys space for Tiny as well as Whist to fully come online, to get the Aghanim Scepter, and then you move into the different phase of the game, which is pushing down towers. Limp can remove creep waves very, very quickly with a 4-4 combo, and then in comes the Tiny. Aghanim Scepter beats into the tower, and you got yourself buildings as well as creep waves, and no way for EG to stop it.
Man, Sumail is so scared that he picked up the invisibility rune, and he actually sat almost for the full duration in that middle lane, waiting for his opportunity to get a right click, but couldn't actually get really any CS whatsoever. Eunice trying to run down AUI, but no opportunity there due to the concussive shot slow.
Yeah. He at least had a chance to come back for Fear, but Fear's keeping his distance, and with these phase boots, he's very, very stable in the lane.
Super smart decision from Limp, or rather PPD here. Like, they're losing all their lanes. He can't rotate to the middle and really help that out. Top lane, it's kind of already a lost cause. He needs to help out bottom.
PPD, and he comes. Where's this magic missile? Remember, Limp does have his Laguna Blade, but it's not going to be enough. The Lion Striker Ray now will be, but he can't get the attack off. PPD keeps the control up just long enough with the damage output, and
it's a good thing though that he didn't get off that ability solely because he wouldn't have gotten the kill, but the loss of stacks here.
Yeah, Era's moving in, and they knew that EG would be prepping this because they're running a Shadow Fiend as well as the Juggernaut, who have been very well known. Like NiP, they knew last time they did this, they came in with a whole bunch of stacks. So now Era gets the injection of money. He's going for more fighting kind of builds as Eunice, he gets the control over an Owie, and this will be a kill. One more spin, and there she goes.
Skywrath Mage can't deal with an Axe at all. Like, the moment you get caught, it's almost a guaranteed kill just because every spin does so much damage, especially with a 1-1-3 build. The Skywrath Mage just doesn't have armor, so he's a naturally squishy hero that's very susceptible to physical damage.
EG has to get some kind of control on this game at the moment. The Tiny's moving forward too quickly. The Lena's moving too quickly with item progression as well as level progression. They need to put a stopper on it. But
where's it going to come from, though?
It has to be smoke rotations from Owie as well as PPD. Move together and make sure you get the kill on the Tiny before things like this happen. They jump in, they're looking for a little bit of a body block, and, well, that's the death of Sumail. PPD arrives just a fraction of a second too late. It's NiP are always one gank ahead of EG.
Nice toss back there from Era. And that was the extra bit to ensure that they didn't have to dive the tower, where they potentially could have given up a counter kill. I do agree with you. Evil Geniuses just basically have to move around a lot more aggressively. It's unfortunate that you have to move the Skywrath Mage around before he's level 6, but it's their only option, essentially, to try and get Universe and these two supports to start threatening Ninjas and Pajamas, because the static laning phase obviously is going the way of NiP. If they continue to just sit back with the 3-1-1, they're going to lose out too much economically. The problem is the SF usually takes that point in time to sit back in the jungle and farm up, but his stacks were already taken, so that farm is going to be significantly delayed.
Yeah, all he can do is just farm up one average camp. That's all it can take. And NiP don't want them to hold back. That's why you're seeing Era. Like, obviously, he can expend a lot of mana because he's got a Wisp right behind him. He's going to pick up the 8-minute rune in 30 seconds' time. But what you want to do is add a lot more pressure into the buildings. So if EG do something like what they're trying to do now, which is look for the initiation on Lena, this is what I was searching for with that kind of smoke gank thing to work with Universe. Because all you need to do is raw, and you're going to get the VS follow-up stun, and then a couple of orbs, and you should be able to find that kill.
The problem is it's super obvious, but look at top.
Yeah, they're jumping over for Fear. The Avalanche going to kick. He didn't go for the spin in time, and now he's in trouble. The spin will be there, but that doesn't stop the culling blade of the axe.
A flying dunk there from Eunice manages to secure the kill there on the carry of Evil Geniuses, and I love the fact that Limp read this so perfectly. It's too obvious if Universe leaves the lane that he's obviously ganking mid or top, so they instead bring the supports to the bottom lane, but Limp, he reads that. Like, the Beastmaster's sticking around, he knows the supports are coming to gank him, he sits back, he plays passive at the right time, and just wastes the time of these two supports who are already so under-leveled. They needed that kill so badly, but at this rate it seems IUI is never going to get his level 6.
No, and that's so bad for them because now they can't just do this dual ganking. And whoops, if you can't do the dual ganking, like, how is EG meant to do this without doing what they're now doing? But you're doing this with Fear, walking past this. Like, after they got the kill, they left an aggressive observer just watching all of EG's movements inside the jungle. They're aggressively TPing in PPD, so maybe Gnarly will be able to do this. That's well worth it. Even if PPD dies here, it's still worth it. But the relocate's coming in. Fear, he doesn't want to go in. There's still, well, he does have Omni Slash available, but who's he going to kill off after the crit on Era? There's your jump around. Era so low on life. Another tossed in. Relocate. The time's going to wear off in a moment, and he's going to be brought back, but not in time. The attack will reach from Aoi 2000. It is still, however, a double kill arriving for Era, and Sumail needs more damage into Axe. There's your call, but where's the damage? Universe has to back up.
That was such a beautiful play to hit the call and TP out like that. Sure, he could have stopped it to get the Culling Blade on Universe, and maybe could have run himself away, but the safer play was to complete that TP. Very smart decision. Ninjas and Pajamas don't need to make any kind of like very aggressive plays. They're already winning the game as is. If they just continue along this line of logic, make sure that they don't play overly aggressive, I feel the mid game is going to be so dominant, and they have the late game well in hand as well, with the Wisp Tiny already having such a great start. They're going to become a huge split pushing power, as well as the teamfight relocator. I mean, Limp, once he gets that Yule Scepter, forget about the fact that Yule Scepter by itself should guarantee kills for the Lina. You have a relocate on top of that.
Yeah. The only downside for NiP, if we really go into late game, like we're talking 45 minutes plus, is the fact that the Tiny will probably be the only major factor. The Axe is going to start to drop off against EG's lineup, and the Lina, while she's this wonderful burst damager, the Aghanim's upgrade is absolutely wonderful. The combo with it isn't as strong. Globally, they're great because they've also got the Wisp there, and you can buff up the Tiny, so your survivability is great. But if EG can find a way to kill off Tiny, would you say with some focused stuns and damage, then EG will still have a way to come back in the later portion of this game. But the problem is, they will probably never get there, judging by the momentum which NiP have already picked up.
Yeah, I would be careful, though, underestimating the power of Alina late game if you are ahead. And Ninjas and Pajamas should stay ahead constantly. Aghanims is not to be messed with. Evil Geniuses, especially heroes like Juggernaut, right? Who are agility heroes, naturally squishy, but they rely on some sort of magic immunity to keep them alive. Well, that pure damage is going to rip right through a hero like Juggernaut or another one like SF. I mean, once they build into big stat items, they get Scotty plus some extra. Yeah, they'll be tanky enough that the Aghanims doesn't threaten them as much, but it's still going to be a significant factor no matter how late this game goes.
EG need to get rid of this ward. It's only got another 1 minute and 10 seconds left on him, but it's watching every single move of theirs, and there's nothing they can do. Axe is now going to try and run down on Fear. It's going to give him the extra movement speed by going in for that Battle Hunger, and Fear, he's deciding to try and outrun this. At the same time, the rotation up, they've gone for that relocate in, they pick off Sumail. Fear is still on the run out of here. His armor is being stripped away from him again. The Mystic Flare, there is some kind of revenge. It's over on the Wisp with Strand's Era here, but what have you got? You got an Axe to be tossed in, catching out Fear. Omni Slash still available. He needs to let it go, but they've got so much life that they don't really care. Fear's going to drop to the Avalanche and even tossing up to PPD. There's going to be a second dunk here for Eunice, and maybe even more than that. Owie! He's got the Battle Hunger. Call too far
no,
away.
the
The
toss!
toss in, but Limp, he needs to get the light strike around. Just Laguna Blade him. EG are getting slapped down by the Swedes. 10-4 on the board.
Yes. They came prepared for this match, man. I mean, Evil Geniuses, like, the same time, they are the favorite for this tournament, but it also means you have the biggest target. Everyone is going to be looking to you.
Yeah.
Like, some teams you may not study as hard, like not today. Balkan Bears, you may consider just like, okay, brief glimpse at some of their heroes, let's ban away the Meepo and be done with it. But like EG, you watch this team all the time. Like, whether you're studying for a tournament or not, you see Evil Geniuses constantly playing out these games and you want to watch it. So EG is definitely the team that everyone thinks about. And you could see Ninjas in Pajamas came very prepared to this match. They controlled aggression that they displaced and now just building on the advantage beautifully. They're not making any mistakes.
Yeah, with a lot of other teams, you'd be like, oh, Dazzle as well as Wisp, maybe this isn't a great idea for them. But they do. They find the perfect controlled aggression. And it comes through heroes, which is not really a surprise. Like, PPD would know that Limp's Lina would be coming out. The difference was obviously the laning phase.
Oh, Limp bottom lane.
Yeah, Light Strike Array, relocate. They don't even need him. They really don't need him.
I mean, I think, if anything, AUI is lucky that he didn't show his face there. Because if he did, if it was daytime, they could have actually tossed the Wisp at him, and maybe they could have gotten that kill. They're going to relocate. Also, very good play that they relocated from a very safe condition where there's no potential turnaround from EG.
And this graph is telling 1,000 stories right now. Everything is just going the way of NiP. They've got all the primary items they're searching for. The Aghanim Scepter is getting closer and closer to completion. For Era, he's now 1,000 gold away from doing that. We're only 14 minutes into this game, and it wasn't a straight Ags. He went for the drums plus the treads. So that's a nice way for him. They're just having a bit of a peak. It would have been one quick way for EG to get back into the game. At the same time, maybe not peaking with Era would be the greatest idea. He's probably one of the tankiest of them all, but...
4-man smoke up, Evil Geniuses looking for that pick off. I mean, they have to blow these kind of very aggressive smokes for the next 5 to 10 minutes.
They know exactly where they are, so the engagement shouldn't be too difficult.
They have to go for these when the relocate is down, right? Because they could potentially force a smoke gank that actually turns sour solely because of relocate.
Well, they found an opening. It's going to be the Axe. He jumps in, gets the call over on Universe, but how quickly do they kill him? They're leaving Universe for dead. They're not coming in. The Laguna Blade from Limp will kill him off. So with the death of the Tier 1 tower...
I mean, normally Skyrim Mage is great in those situations, right? You're supposed to drop the Mystic Flare up against the Axe right there, but they knew there was no way they could do enough damage to kill the Axe.
The Mystic Flare would do nothing. This Axe is walking around with a Vanguard as well as Tranquil boots. You probably just end up wasting your ability and not have another chance for, well, what, 60 seconds?
Yeah, Axe has got 1,400 HP, plus he's got 2 healers behind him. There's no way in any universe that you actually can do enough damage to kill him. With just long-range initiation, without actively engaging him. They didn't want to engage, so they back up. Evil Geniuses are just going to play the longer game here, look to farm up, look to make a recovery through that. Living? AUI probably not. Well,
yeah, Universe probably not. He goes for the roll. Okay, actually it's going to be Eunice who's in trouble. They don't have enough damage to finish the job. He had enough one chance up his sleeve, he'll survive. And EG, they back up. That was Raw and Mystic Flare committed. And we did see at least how much damage they can do to the Axe. Downside is there's a Wisp right behind him to heal him up.
Yeah, normally you would be like, okay, Evil Geniuses still have like a really good chance in this game because it's going to be tough for NiP to push uphill. Everybody, like all the top tier teams in those situations where it's very scary to push uphill. But when you got a Tiny, it's so easy.
I don't think there's any fear at all.
No, there is none with a Tiny Wisp.
You're so far ahead. Just one pick off and you'll go for the tower. Knowing that Roar is down and the fact that Mystic Flare is down too, go for it. The Shadow Fiend, what's he going to do? We've got Sumail trying to build into a BKB, but that Requiem of Souls it's not something you really fear. It's a level 1 Requiem of Souls right now. And he's never going to be able to stand long enough to even channel it out in a good position. Because there's no Yule Scepter set up, he's got no BKB to protect him, so in fact your Yule Scepter on the Lina will be more useful.
Yeah, the plan right now for Ninjas in Pajamas is to eat through probably 2 Roshans. The next Roshan will just establish dominance and take that last tier 2 tower.
Speaking of dominance, Eunice going after Sumail. He's going to wind up the ulti and then they just get out of here. But at the same time, Era, owie, nice little seal. So there's no toss in, there's no avalanche. And Sumail, he tries to stand his ground, but the Mystic Flare does nothing. Sumail drops Fear, isolated out. This will be a Light Strike Array as well. Nope, they just keep the distance while Era, as well as Eunice, team up together behind the tower. More TPs support coming in. The Wave of Terror only affects the Tiny, but the Raw over on the Axe, so they have enough damage, not with that Shallow Grave. In fact, they can just try and turn around again. Laguna Blade is off cooldown. And EG has to be careful about this. Era with a 4-4 combo. PPD, where's Laguna? Not even required. Era just tosses the poor captain of Evil Jesus. 3 players down into the Omni Slash. It was one last YOLO. 4 heroes gone. 16-4. GG! 17 minutes. Wow, look how happy NiP are as well. They have just trashed, arguably the #1 team in the West. Most definitely the #1 team in US.
Unbelievable. I mean, like, no.
There's so much on the line here for EG versus NiP.
Yep.
The winner of this game goes into a playoff against Team Empire, who were busy preparing themselves down in the other areas. I say preparing themselves. I think they're watching CS:GO.
They are actually. I see one of them watching CS:GO.
But they'll be ready to play this game up against the winner of that. The winner of that game goes into first position. The loser of this game has to play up against MVP Phoenix for the third or fourth position, then to battle into the semifinals. A long run. All of our playoff games are starting tomorrow at midday local time. So it's going to be a very long day too, because that's potentially 9 games. They're all best of 3s, but that's 9 games you'll have to play in a row. It's a long run up if you're going to come from the bottom.
Yeah, gigantic difference between just this one game and having the opportunity to take first place and be in the finals right away and watch everyone else battle it out to get to you. So Evil Geniuses and Ninjas in Pajamas, they will not be pulling any punches here in this group stage match.
Yeah, this is it really. So our first ban's out of the way. Night Stalker being banned down against NiP. They have been picking this up in the 4th position throughout the day, but it's going to let slip through the Wisp of War. He's the first one to come in. And normally NiP have just gone for the tiny combination. And really, PPD, he'll be expecting this. You ban out Troll, you ban this out. Maybe you would think a sniper pickup will be on the cards. But in this case, you've already got the Wisp. I'd be more concerned they actually get both. Run a Wisp Honey safe lane, put Sniper in mid, or Sniper safe lane, which has actually been more of what they've done. Because they run Sniper safe lane with Ear, and they put limps like Lena into the mid instead.
And I think it would be much more likely that if they do run the Tiny Wisp, they would run it in the middle lane. We don't see safe lane too often, but yeah, they have an incredibly good win rate with the Wisp. They have a 66% win rate, 12-6, Toby. Very impressive. I mean, that's not just like, oh, we won, 3 games.
A couple of games here and there.
Exactly. They actually have picked it up a lot in the past and have shown consistent performances with it, though. Evil Geniuses, strong response here. The Juggernaut. We do not get to see this guy very much. This tournament has been...
Fear's really the only person, Fear's the only person at this tournament that's played the Juggernaut.
Yep.
And very successful. This is where we open up our thoughts a little bit, because the last time we saw him play the Juggernaut, it was his safe lane farmer, ended up coming in, winning the world because he was given space. Sumail was destroyed playing the Storm Spirit mid. We're not going to see the same situation this time around because the Storm's being banned out. The Juggernaut also won't have this early advantage by having Empower because the Magnus is directly banned out by NiP in that 3rd one. They do not want this Juggernaut becoming unstoppable.
Yeah, I actually had some opportunity to talk to Hanskin outside of being on the cast, and I wanted to know, what are you going to be doing up against EG? How did you read, MVP Phoenix took it to EG. What were the weaknesses you saw out of them? And it sounded like he said that, okay, MVP Phoenix did aggression really well up against Evil Geniuses. They ran an aggro tri-lane. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that we need to run an aggro tri-lane, but we do need to kind of put pressure on them. If Evil Geniuses have strong supports, and that was the main reason that MVP Phoenix were able to run that kind of aggro tri-lane was solely because EG had a kind of a lackluster tri-lane. If EG have strong supports, we can't run the aggro tri-lane, but we can still keep up pressure, right? We're actually going to try and not just do what Empire did and rotate constantly to the middle lane, right? Yep. We're actually going to make some movements up to that top lane. We're going to try and go up against those tri-lane heroes impossible. Not the aggro tri-lane here. I mean, I would say Vengeful Spirit and Juggernaut way too dangerous, but...
It feels more like a dual lane potential.
Yeah, a strong dual lane with Axe, I think, is exactly the kind of aggressive standpoint that you're looking at.
And you can do it with, different combos. So, you can run, the Dazzle is where my mind's going here. So you can run Dazzle, Axe off lane, and then put the Wisp plus Tiny into the mid. The problem, obviously, if you do something like this, it causes large amounts of issues with control factors, because your supports don't give any when you have someone like a Dazzle. It's all armor, and you then have to have more of a push kind of focus, and that's probably the reason why PPD doesn't ban out something like the Dazzle. He takes out the line instead. That control factor that can roam and function with the rest of NiP.
Skywrath Mage for Evil Geniuses, strong hero to be able to burst down the Wisp as fast as humanly possible, solid disable through and through. It's very good versus the Axe as well, right? He jumps in, he gets the call, but he's not really moving too much. Unless he has the Blade Mail, Skywrath Mage won't really be threatened to just drop that ultimate.
It is kind of surprising that they go for the Skywrath Mage, and it puts a lot of confidence into PPD to make sure that Vengeful Spirit's played absolutely perfectly, because the swap is going to do so much work now. Like, you could have gotten something like a Witch Doctor combined with a VS, a normal combo, or with like Disruptor, for example. So you've got Glimpse or Paralyzing Cast to stop that Wisp plus whoever combination that comes out from NiP.
Ninjas in Pajamas,
They do have the Dazzle.
Yeah,
Okay.
Run the Dazzle Axe. They can still pick up the Tiny Wisp, and the big advantage of this, right, if they're running a dual aggro lane, Axe, Dazzle, off lane together, they can run the Wisp +1 in middle, and that actually gives a huge opportunity. You see this very rarely, but they can actually run a safe lane solo. And that is huge. Having that kind of opportunity, running a hero in the safe lane, 1v1 up